Steve here, and I'm at the Jaguar drive day at Sandown Racecourse, and the rain is coming down.
Gives you a position on the leaderboard, hopefully.
Hey, well, you never know.
We've got, she's just off the bottom of the board, literally. That's 18th place. Actually, it's better. It's literally close to the leaderboard.
Oh.
44
serious?
seconds. Up.
And I
Golly,
thought,
okay.
No, you messed it up before we started. The practice.
Okay.
You see, your accuracy is good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well done. See, most people don't go better on the second one.
Yeah, most people drive too hard in the second.
When we started driving, I started warming up on the inside. Do you know what I mean? And so I find it kind of a bit
It's Yoda. Pressure. Oh. That's a rain. This is amazing. Good to go. Alright. So just on the door.
On the door. Oh. This way. This one?
So yeah, if you want to go forward, just push the base. This one?
Yep.
Alright, so just remember, we're always going through the green.
Yep.
But you're looking for the blue.
Okay.
That's your next sort of move.
Yep.
Okay. And just, take into account that it is a bit slippery now.
Understood.
Yep.
Are these rear wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got traction and everything on.
Yep.
It's probably more like as you barrel into a corner, just to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Get
Yeah,
it
the harder I
changed.
push it, the further it'll understeer and go out.
Yeah, exactly.
All good.
Let's go. So first 5 are just practice.
Alright.
Yep,
That's
all.
down.
That'll come off. Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
Cool.
So in we go. Going for the green.
Uh-huh.
Going for the green.
Going for the green, yeah.
But knowing where to come back to these blue ones.
Yep.
So it's a tight right-hander.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
So you're going for green though.
Yeah, okay.
So you got to come back to those ones that you just went through.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to push it harder? Can I push
So
it
you
harder?
got to listen. We're going for green.
Yeah.
These ones here are our next move.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Okay.
Yep. So the green ones are over there.
Okay.
And you got to come back to these.
Okay. So I'll just head straight
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Okay.
We're still practicing, so I just want to sort of get that clear now before we actually get to the comp.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
So you're going back to those ones that we just went through.
Yeah.
Now look for the next blue.
Yeah. Got
So
it.
that's our next move, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Now next blue.
So
You're
here,
going through green.
Yep.
Blue's our next one. Okay, go right. They're behind us. Next blue. Where are they?
Yep.
Good. So we've started the comp now.
Okay.
Keep searching for the next blues. Going for the green. This is good pace. Keep this sort of pace up. To the middle. Left. Coming back to these ones over here. Good stuff. And then the next one's on our right. Hard right. Good. Alright, where's our next blue ones? Yep, perfect. Right. There we go, good. Nice flow. Beauty, mate. Okay, back to the middle. That'll be it after that, I reckon, and it should go all red.
Did it go red? Nope. You can go through those?
Oh no. It will have triggered, but like inside.
Yep.
Heading over here.
Okay.
Stop for a sec. Yeah,
Yep.
it's all good. Even though we had to go back through, it would have triggered, so you're fine. Lining up behind these guys.
Cool.
So yeah, we were good. Once we got into the comp,
Yep.
you'd sort of got the understanding of it.
Yeah.
So even though we stopped and had a quick chat, that didn't impact at all.
Okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
We'll wait for these guys to move off, and then
Sure.
if we can just pull up to the orange there.
Yeah.
It is a little tricky to get your head around because you're thinking so much about blue that you start going for blue.
You forget about green,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have another crack at that. That was terrible.
I thought it was actually alright. Good to go, Dino. Go, go, go. Alright, moving forward for me.
Okay.
That's perfect there.
Yeah.
Just put it into park. Just pushing the P at the top.
Yep. Easy.
That's all.
What's that?
Yep, let's go and check it out.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, we're a bit close on some of the gates.
Yeah, okay.
So we weren't as central
So we
like
just
this.
wanna
So see this one here?
Yep.
We were trying to cut through to be as quick as possible.
But you want to be,
And that's
we
why
want to be
we pushed
smoother.
this down a little bit. But
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
good. We didn't quite make the leaderboard.
10 minutes ago, that would have been just on the leaderboard.
Yeah,
It
okay.
got knocked down.
I'll jump up. Oh, hey.
Hi guys, guys with Black Land, you come and follow me. We're going to Black Weekend now. Come on, if you're happy with friends and family, sit together as we do separate the front and the back. So,
Check it out perhaps. We do all kinds of things. We run out of each retailer or the dealerships, take 16 or so guests out a day and buy them lunch, take them on some of the good roads. Down this way we tend to go out up into the Yarra Valley and around that way, stop at a winery but not drink the wine, and just make sure people love being behind the wheel of our beautiful cars. What else do we do? At the Grand Prix, if you're coming to the Grand Prix in March, come and see us. We're there every year, and if you know when it's a track and not just Albert Park, on the inside of the circuit between turns 5 and 6, you'll find us there. We take over a car park, which is normally for the yacht club, and I build a little track and we water it down and we give 4 days of lap rides in F-types. It's great fun. And we love it because we do all the driving. 4 days of massaging your own ego. So yes, it's great fun. It's actually been proven to be the #1 activation at the Grand Prix, and I'm convinced at some stages we've got a bigger crowd than the Formula 1 cars. So anyway, come and see us. And the reason we do all this is because it's still like a secret at how good our cars are. What you might not realise is that this afternoon you are probably going to be driving one of the best handling cars you've ever driven, or among the best handling cars you've ever driven, which probably sounds like a very bold statement, but it's not a bold statement, it's fact. We make incredible cars. We make even the smallest engined small SUV is designed as a performance car and along the sports car philosophy in terms of design flow. So they are extremely good cars. We use aluminium chassis. We've actually invented new grades and strengths of aluminium. So the chassis are incredibly stiff. In some cases stiffer than a Formula 1 car, the actual tub of the chassis. The E-Pace, our new electric vehicle, the battery electric vehicle, is one of the strongest chassis there is in existence in terms of not twisting under load. We put double wishbone suspension on the front of almost everything that we make except for one car, and we are very, very good at tuning the steering to get the absolute maximum from it. And so what you're really going to enjoy is the way that the car responds to you after that initial turn in. Okay, so you're going to love it. They communicate with you, they talk to you, they're easy to drive. Okay, so my name's Tim Jones, Jaguar Australia lead driver, which basically means I enjoy life. You want my job, don't you? I tell you, you wouldn't want it today. I'll warn you about the circuit in a minute, but you are at the world's most slippery racetrack in the rain. If you watch the V8 supercars, you might have guessed that already. But anyway, yes, I have this amazing job, and it basically means I do just enjoy life because I'm out there working with these amazing things all the time. I grew up at a track called Brands Hatch, It's quite a well-known racetrack in the UK. Had the Grand Prix there for many years. So I've worked for them all over the years, but this is what I call home. This is where I belong, because they make drivers' cars, and the passion is as big a passion as any Italian car or German car. I bring my team with me, who today includes someone like Tony D'Alberto, who's co-driver to Fabian Coulthard in the Penske team. So maybe don't mention Bathurst. Okay. Mentioned Bathurst 2 or 3 years ago when he was on the podium. He was a champion in the new touring car series this year as well, wasn't he? Ricky Capo, winner in sports cars at Monza last year in LMP3, so think kind of Le Mans type cars. I've got a Brabham, young Sam, grandson of Jack, so talk about a bloodline there. And his dad, David, was a very good driver, drove in Formula One for a little while. There's no relationship to Alan Jones, by the way. So anyway, we've got some good drivers, but what might interest you more today is that they're accredited instructors. So yes, they've all proven they can drive, but they've also had to prove that they can communicate what they're trying to show you as well. Okay? And I don't use anyone who hasn't raced to a good level, because you have to be able to understand the dynamics of a car to an extreme degree to be able to do this, because you've got to be several hundred metres ahead of the driver to anticipate and to be able to coach. So that's the team that will be with you. Right, bit of housekeeping. To the younger ones amongst you, that's what a phone used to look like. Okay, it's the most decent picture of a phone I can find. Phones, beginning to hate them. Perhaps it's because I'm getting old. Mine's in my phone at the moment and it keeps ringing whenever I start to do a briefing. Check this out, right? I'm not going to answer it, that would be rude, wouldn't it? Okay, but I'm not answering it. It's buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. Yep, I appear to be able, without answering it, to still be able to breathe and walk. Check it out. It's quite liberating, actually. In fact, I've got so used to it, I'm actually leaving it home at home when not when I go away, but if I go out from the house. Guess what happens though when you forget your phone? Nothing. The company survives. My friends and relatives appear to survive as well, thankfully. These things are becoming so dangerous. 33 people in Queensland died last year because of people texting and driving. Whether they were doing it or someone else was, I don't know. I'd love you to take a safety message away from today. I'd love you to stop doing it. I'd love you to tell your friends and family to stop doing it. Now, you're all right because you can do it, can't you? You're that good, you can do it. No, none of us have the skill to do it. So please stop it. You're getting away with it. One day you're going to be sitting there wishing you could wind the clock back. Okay? Please stop it. Have you heard of a chap called Mark Webber? Formula One driver, Australian, Aussie battler in F1. I gave him a job years ago before he was famous. And he's made a film about it. Check it out on YouTube. He can't do it. Well, you know, like a world champion in motorsport. If he can't do it, I'm sure no one in this room can. Anyway, it's a bit of a crusade of mine because unfortunately we have had the tragedy of someone being killed by it. So please get your friends and family to stop it. None of us are capable. Okay, moving on. Toilets. Out that door, turn left and head to the grandstand. Plan ahead, it's quite a long way, okay? And you'll see a block clearly being marked toilets. And muster point, if it's a weather-related problem, lightning or something, why don't we make it next door by the coffee machine? Okay, that would be good. But if it's a building-related problem, then we'll probably try and get everyone to stand out by the arena with the water barriers, which we call smart cone, where the F-type game is actually operating. Okay, so that's what we'll do with that. Smokers, if you're a smoker, today would be a good day to give it up because there's only one place you can smoke and that's on the way to the toilet, at least at the gate that goes to the toilet block, please. I've got quite a lot of fuel in these garages. So if you go round the back of the pits for a cheeky one, you may find the one place that you should not be doing it. Okay, we're full of all kinds of not exotic fuels, they're normal fuel, but it's everywhere. Okay, in a moment I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of some cars, just so that you recognise more or less what type you're going to when you get to it. Of course, if you want a bit more information, the instructors will give it to you. And then I'm going to mention safety. And I might go on a bit about safety today because it is incredibly slippery out there.
Yes. Yeah, I've been here before, yeah.
Yeah, cool. What are you driving around here?
I did a V8 race day
Okay.
about 4 years ago.
Yeah. Turning point,
Yep.
apex.
Yep. On it, yep.
Braking markers.
Yep, talk me through, yep.
That's it. Apex.
Mhm.
Turning point there. Squeeze on the throttle from the apex.
Yep, okay. Nice boy. Are you allowed to overtake? Okay. I like jumping on go-karts, so
Yeah, right.
yeah. So.
What do you drive yourself?
I have a Corolla.
Oh, cool.
I used to have a Skyline a long time ago. R32 GTS 25. That was almost 20 years ago. This is the
SVR.
SVR, okay. Is there anybody behind us? No.
Oh, there's one car. Yeah.
No, is it? Okay. Alright. I was going to say, it's a shame you can't spread out and then hammer it.
Oh, but this is just to show you the
Yeah.
lines and everything. It's not,
Of course.
it's not a hot line.
Yeah, no. What can you get down this straight?
About 200.
200? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
210.
Okay. Paddles, yeah. I can tell you want to go. Yeah.
It's not a track day, mate. It's
I
just
know,
a-
I know. I know. Yeah. No, it's good fun though. It's a shame it's so wet.
Yeah. off now. Were you paired up with someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
That's right. Well, we'll hopefully get you into drive in a second. We're just sort of assessing the conditions at the moment.
Yeah, no,
So
no sweat.
as soon as the conditions clear up, we will.
Sure thing. No worries. Thank you.
What do we think, team? Not too bad? Yeah. Pretty good? You thought pretty good?
Oh, the car's beautiful, mate.
Yeah.
What are we sitting in? This is the
SVR.
SVR.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Really?
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
What's your name?
Angie.
Angie. Beautiful. Do you like driving this thing?
Do I like driving it? No.
You don't?
I love it.
You love it. It's a beautiful car.
It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. It's just a dream car to drive.
Gorgeous interior.
It's fabulous interior. The finishes in the Jaguar though is second to none. And it just goes like the clappers and it's beautiful power.
Thank you so much for the lift.
A pleasure, even though it was only half a minute.
That's okay. No worries at all.
Excellent.
Might be right. Excellent. So I'm going to hand you over to Luke now, and he's going to take you guys over for the road drive activity. So thank you very, very much for looking after the cars and looking after our instructors. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you all again very shortly.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Well done.
How many of the I-Paces?
I've got 3 in rotation at the moment, so there are a couple of people that will miss out. I try and get as many people in as I can, and that's why we have one over the a little bit like the track, you're going to be partnered up. So can everybody please cuddle with their partner, hold hands, cuddle, I don't mind what you do. I just need to, there we go, 1, 2, 1, 2. So, cool, 2, so we got a single. Oh, that's all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a single.
There was another guy earlier.
Has he bailed? He missed out on it. Alright, well, what we'll do is we'll send you to the end XC at the line, so if he does happen to come back from the bathroom in a panic, we'll get him with you. So, there will be a car swap out there, guys, so it doesn't matter what you hop into first. We have 3 I-Paces, so we try and get as many people in them as we can, but like Tim said in the briefing, somebody may miss out, okay? That's why we have one over at the Ice Cube activity, so if you do miss out on the road drive, head straight over there to get in an I-Pace if that's what you're interested in. Other than that, I just need pairs, so you two, if you want to jump in with Mr. Coleman here.
How are you guys?
You want to head to the next smart one.
Beautiful.
So, next pair, head to the XS Sport.
Howdy.
Good morning, how are you?
Oh, you're on. Oh, I know. And you're on film.
Oh, very good. All right, the only question I've got, who wants to drive first?
This gentleman does.
No.
This gentleman does.
No.
Okay, I'll go.
You go. All right.
Okay, so just while we're here, I'm just going to go into the electric setup. Something you can't change whilst you're moving. This vehicle creep function we have set to on. That's basically when it's in drive and you take your foot off the brake pedal. You know, an automatic transmission normally has a tendency to creep forward, and then we start to go. We can actually turn that off. So when you lift off the brake, absolutely nothing happens till you touch the throttle. But it comes a little bit difficult to sort of get used to driving it like that. So I usually turn the function on. And once we're in drive, we can't change it on the fly. The second adjustment in the electric vehicle panel is this regenerative braking. And we've got a high and low function. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we're out, and obviously you'll experience that. But that's pretty much how much the car reduces its speed when you lift off the throttle. Okay, and what it does is turns the electric motor from providing power to the wheels, from the wheels then driving the motor and then creating power and then recharging the battery. So we set it to high so we can obviously extend the range on the charge. So when you're ready, foot on the brake and we'll hit drive, and you just take your foot off the brake, it'll start to creep, and there it is, and away we go.
Excellent, thank you.
I need to get a little bit of throttle rumble or something going on here.
Right.
So we're turning left here between the buildings.
So you're clear? Yep. Look at that, it'll even indicate.
I find it, I do really well driving these vehicles. I do all the right things, left hand blinker all day, and then I get in my own car and I turn the wipers on. So you'd think you'd be used to your own vehicle more than the ones you drive here. Okay, we're heading out to the right, obviously.
I guess the problem is that you think about it when you're driving one of these.
You do, yeah.
When you're driving your own car, you're like, yeah, okay, we're cool.
So as you accelerate up a little bit more, and then if you lift completely off the throttle, you'll feel that regenerative braking. So he's not touching the brakes there at all. It's simply the system then using the energy of obviously the car rolling, and then trying to recharge that battery, and obviously prolong the range you get out of a charge. Which is very helpful. Once you get your head around that regenerative braking feel, obviously it's quite efficient in traffic, because you can obviously lift off and stop the car without using your brakes quite oftenly. And if you do have to use your brakes, it's only for the last 10 kilometers an hour, so you don't actually use them much at all.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing is, in high regen mode, when you lift off like that, it does actually activate the brake lights, because obviously letting the drivers behind know that you're actually slowing down.
Gotcha. Okay. How much would one of these cost fully optioned?
Good question. I don't know. I don't sell them, to be honest. They start around the 120, and obviously depending on what box you tick. This is the HSE, so it is the high spec one with the roof and all the air ride and suspension.
Right.
So
upwards of probably 130, you'd say.
Yeah. Definitely. I think with the options, the ones in front's the SE, so that's going to be closer to the 120, and then obviously with the options they can be well up, I think, to over 150, depending on what range you get. So the other thing to note with an all-electric vehicle is that we have 700 Newton meters of torque, but unlike a combustion engine, we don't have a torque curve. We basically have 100% of torque instantly. So you'll find that the acceleration is quite rapid, even though that we're just over 2.1 tons of weight. Still got a lot of punch. Yeah, it's about a second slower than I think the F-Type to 100, so it's in the high fives, which is quite exceptional for an SUV. And you can see on the dash that when you lift off in that regenerative mode, it shows you how much charge you're taking.
Yep. Nice.
I think once you get your head around those two different, obviously, driving techniques with the regenerative braking and obviously that acceleration, the best compliment the car, I think, receives is that it's just like a normal car.
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose, reassuring or dispersing any concerns about the electric, vehicle movement. still got 4 wheels and a steering wheel. It's just really a drive method, you know. It's just or a motor method that's changed. And there's some significant advantages of having electric. Like most of the guys that working here are all in racing, and generally have some sort of petrol head association.
Yep.
It's hard to debunk the performance of the electric. Like I said, that instant torque is exceptional, and response you get out of the throttle is really good. The regenerative braking gives you such a good braking capability, even without applying the brakes over the top. So that's another performance issue. That's really good. And then I find that the range on the modern ones, they're well up in the high 400s now. So that's I think they're quoting about 480 to 490 kilometers out of a single charge, depending obviously on your driving techniques.
Yeah, of course.
If you're on days like this and you're experiencing a little bit of the acceleration more than the regenerative, you're probably going to use a little bit more power and not get the range up in the 400s.
Yep. Just get going.
Yeah, we're going straight. We'll stay on the Princess Highway until we go underneath the freeway, and then we'll turn off onto Hetherington Road.
Okay. It's just a nice, lazy drive. I mean, in the best way.
Yeah, I think I always refer to them as an easy car to drive, and not just the electric vehicle, but all the Jaguar range. I find cars are very easy to drive, and that's mostly because the experience is centered around a driver. The driving position, how you feel as part of the car, you just become sort of like second nature. And it sort of sounds quite simple, but they are just easy cars to drive, and that's. This is probably the easiest of them all.
Yeah,
It's certainly one of the most comfortable ones you can drive. Now, all the Jaguar range have different drive modes. I normally talk about the transmission though being a sports mode, but in the electric vehicle we don't have any of that. But we certainly still have the drive modes over here, and that obviously changes the characteristics of the car. I suppose the most Jaguar-like function is the dynamics mode, which is indicated by the checkered flag.
Okay. Yeah.
You see the dash goes to red. Obviously that puts the vehicle in its most performance-based state, and that effectively stiffens the suspension, makes it a little bit more performance and a bit firmer in the dampening. Your steering, you'll notice your steering gets a little bit heavier.
Okay.
And that's to give the driver a little bit more feedback when they're driving in that spirited sense. We'll be turning left just after these lights here. And although you have exceptional throttle response in normal Jaguar sense, when you put them in dynamic mode, the throttle response becomes even sharper, so you get more throttle for less input, which is good. And in other modes with a transmission, when you're in the dynamic mode, the gear shifting becomes is even faster again, rapid gear change. And then of course you have the other modes. I think it's they have comfort, and then there's an eco mode, which is promoting obviously the most economical. You won't find as much throttle response. You'll see some gauges down the bottom there to show you how much throttle you're using. Obviously trying to minimize the amount of battery power and stuff you use in the charge. And then you've got rain, ice and snow, which is obviously going to reduce the amount of throttle response, so you don't obviously exert the limits of the grip available. So they're all the different modes to play, and they're right across the range, so the I-Pace is no different. The other one in the HSE has got this adjustable height, so you can lower the car. You can see now that it's lowering itself to a different ride height through the air suspension. So
interesting. What would you recommend just as a daily
mode? As a daily mode, I'd be running I'd just be running in absolute comfort all day.
Yeah.
In some of the other models, I probably prefer to run in dynamic mode, not necessarily sport mode in the transmission, but certainly dynamic mode, mostly because I don't mind the firmer suspension. So when you drive, some of the sedans or even the XF SportBrake, which you'll drive next, in dynamic mode, the suspension, although is firmer, it's not like rough, it's still very compliant with the road, and I find that performance advantage is some advise not to use it all the time. I actually like it. I sort of like the throttle response more than anything else, because being a driver, you know, if I'm pushing the throttle down, I want to make sure it's actually working. I don't like that
the
lag in the throttle, and it's not. People often confuse it when we're doing the track days. They go, oh, there's got a lot of turbo lag. Some of the smaller turbos. It's actually not turbo lag as such. It's more. I always sort of describe it as a bit of a traction control strategy. You know, if you think about prevention being better than the cure, if it gives you the power rapidly like you want it, and you break traction, and then it has to take the power away and try and rectify the traction loss, and then give it back to you, the time is, you know, you're losing the time. If it basically, you give the throttle and then it says hang on a minute, and then it slowly opens the throttle at a slower rate, progressively giving you the power, it's more efficient in that regard. So rather than give it to you, take it away, and then feed it back to you slowly, it just doesn't give it to you in the rapid response from the outset. So I always think of it as prevention's better than the cure. But in the dynamic mode, it's much sharper anyway. It's still not going to exert the limits of what traction's available, but I just like that sharper throttle response. And the heavier steering, to be fair. I like having that feedback.
Feels really kind of strange to not feel the car idling.
Yeah. It's funny because I sort of think the same as that. I tend to think that's one of the unique feelings of driving an electric vehicle. It doesn't have this engine note. It is quite overall. But the last two gentlemen that drove it actually said to me, oh, it's not too dissimilar to the normal Jaguar, because they're all fairly quiet when you're in the cars, and you'll notice when you drive the next one that even the non-electric vehicles in the combustion engine, you don't hear a lot of engine noise unless you're obviously driving in a bit of a spirited sense, or you're in the one of the models with like an F-Type, for instance, with the bimodal exhaust, or which you probably had a drive with on the track. How was your track experience in the wet?
Yeah, it was good.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, I got told to sort of back off a bit. It was, you know,
a bit. Sandown's quite notoriously bad in the wet with all the surface changes. So what you think you've got here 10 feet up the road you don't have, and then you might have another 30 feet up the road from that. So I get that sometimes, and it's not great in the wet for that regard. But it's all right. And what did you drive? What were you into?
I was in the SVR.
Oh, nice. SVR as in the coupe, the grey one, or were you in? You mean the SVR's SUV?
The SUV.
Oh,
yeah, SUV.
Yeah.
That's my favourite car.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's my absolute favourite at the moment.
It sounded the best out of all of them.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's a start. I love the look of it because from the SVR to the normal S8, it's just some subtle changes. A couple of bonnet vents, some light alterations on the rear bar. So you really got to know what you're looking at to sort of notice it. But when it starts up, it's got that lovely note.
Oh,
you see the rumble. The performance is unbelievably good. It's effectively a four-door SUV F-Type.
Okay.
It handles exceptionally well for a car that's, you know, close to 2.5 ton. Stops brilliantly, mostly in the drive. That dead set stops very well. I sort of think they designed it for the guy that couldn't get the F-Type across the line at home.
Okay.
And sort of said, no, we need a practical car. Well, all right, let's make him a four-door SUV version. It's the same power plant, the 404 kilowatt supercharged V8, same 8-speed ZNF transmission. So you do get that great power delivery, and obviously it's mostly rear-wheel drive with a little bit of all-wheel drive when obviously when that traction's exceeded. Great car, to be fair. And that's, I mean, they start from when I think I checked the price on one we had at a track recently, it was like 155 grand.
Okay.
So if you think from a performance and luxury side of things, that's a lot of vehicle. You know, with the seats and all the leather and all that stuff, it's pretty impressive. I know some other manufacturers with something similar, you'd probably be paying upwards of another 50 to 100,000 on top of that to match that sort of performance level. So, I checked the tow rating just to be sure. I wanted to know whether I could tow a race car with it. I can certainly do that too, so that's fine.
Do you race?
Yeah, I do gravel rally mostly. So, and then the kids come along and put a big handbrake on your racing
but I didn't have to sell any of the toys. So when the kids, they're getting to an age now, I can take them out a little bit more. So
okay.
I spoke to my wife early this year and said, hey, we need to go back out and do a little bit more. So hopefully next year we might might get it back out in the forest.
Nice. And what's your car?
So I've rallied everything pretty much from Datsuns through to WRXs and Evos, and then I've gone back to the 1600 stuff now, the Datsuns. So I like Datsuns. It's old school. It's old school body, but it's all new. So I've got you know, SR20 turbo and 6-speed transmissions and big differentials and GDR brakes and all this crazy
all
stuff.
that in a Datto.
All that in the Datsun, yeah. So runs about I can run up to 310 horsepower at the treads, but it's a little bit too excessive to be fair on the dirt. So it's back to around 250, about the limit of two-wheel drive on the dirt, to be fair. But like most drivers, sometimes you want more, even if you don't need it. So just up ahead here on the left, we'll be making a driver change. So if we pull off to the verge, make sure you give yourself enough clearance on that right side from the main road.
Yeah, sure.
We'll pull up just a bit further up there. Yeah, that's press P. There we go. So you just press the P as well. Yeah, in the when you grab hold of the gear lever and you push it forward with the button, that's actually reverse. It's just got to press the P on top. You would remember when you drove the F-Paces.
Gotcha.
All right, if you gentlemen would like to swap seats.
By the fact that there is no rumble.
Yeah. If you put your foot on the brake and hit the start button, that'll restart. Once you when you put it in park and open the door, it turns itself off.
Okay.
Unless you put your foot on the brake at the same time, and then that will keep it. If I can just get you to put your driver's name in the driver column on the right, I'll look after the times.
There you go.
We just check that is his name.
That is the one. Yes.
Didn't put his brother's name or something.
Nah.
All right. So when you're ready, foot on the brake into drive, and then when it's safe to do so, we can move off. Blinkers on the left.
Ah, yes, of course it is. Yep.
That's all right. You'll find that depending on the setting, if it's in dynamic mode and you do have a more spirited form of acceleration, you'll get some sort of audible sound that comes through to give you that sensation. Because ever since we started driving, we've had sound as being part of the experience of driving, and that's probably one of the big things with electric vehicles, obviously, to overcome is that lack of noise. Like you said, that rumble of an engine idling, or certainly when you're accelerating as part of the F-type.
A bit of vibration in there just lets you know that yes, the car is actually on.
Yeah, something there. Making our way over to the left when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, of course, yep. I'll just put the wipers on again.
Yeah, that's alright. Oh my god, it's raining, that's fair enough. I left at the lights up ahead here. You notice that regenerative braking as soon as you lift off?
Yeah, you can feel it, yeah. It's kind of almost doing away with the brake pedal in a way.
Yeah, they do. Someone told me earlier it was referred to as one pedal driving. It's a little bit like that, yeah.
It reminds me of driving a forklift, a gas forklift.
Yeah.
Where you lift off and like just nothing, just like it comes to a stop.
Yeah.
Or the electric forklifts where the brake is literally lifting your foot off.
Lifting your foot off, yeah. That's that one pedal control.
Yeah.
A little bit like a train, got the lever on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of going from driving a 3-pedal car to driving basically a 1-pedal car. It's a little unnerving.
Takes a little bit of getting used to.
Just a touch. But you can even feel the regenerative, even like not taking your foot off the accelerator.
Just slightly, yeah. As soon as you just take a little bit
it
of
off,
absolutely.
you can feel it, not pull up, but yeah.
You noticed on the gauge there, just as you're going down the hill there with very light load on the throttle, just to keep the momentum going, it's still into the charge mode.
Yeah.
That's where you get it. Starts to come through the system now.
A little bit.
It's just a little bit of a sense there that there's motions happening. You're not just floating on air.
It's hard to. It's really hard to judge. I mean, yeah, coming out of, well, I drove to the track in my daily, which is a big block V8. So this takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah. I could imagine it is
incredibly smooth compared to, yeah.
What are you driving?
Driving a VF Series 2 Redline.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. In this weather.
I know,
yeah. Slip and slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Traction can only do so much.
Traction doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I've got 3 4.5s on the back.
Oh, yep.
And I will lose it if I even
breathe on the
clutch.
Turning right here, we're heading up towards the golf club. So as we get round the corner, and if you just start to increase your speed a bit more up to the speed limit, you might experience the 700 Newton meters.
Oh yeah, there it is.
And
it's pretty zippy.
Yeah. If there's no one behind you, you can slow right down now. If you just lift off, this is probably the thing. You might just tip is just to rest your head
into the charge there, and then just
and rest your head against. So you get a bit of an engine note through there.
A little bit. You can
just to give you a bit of an experience.
Yeah.
We'll see what that comes up on the GoPro. I've got the I've got the GPS on. Should give us a G reading.
Yeah, it can be much more aggressive than that. Not that I recommend it when we're cruising on the road, but if you do, no one says how fast you can get to the speed limit at, as long as you get to the speed limit, isn't that
that's the way it goes,
and without braking traction.
Without braking traction.
Yeah.
Well, the traction control strategy is very good in this because, and we're going right into the driveway here. Because the electric engine is very linear as far as its power delivery and its torque goes, it's very easy for the computer to predict how much traction is available, and obviously then curb the amount of power it's delivering without braking traction. So you really do get an optimal, like for want of a better word, launch when it does it, rather than a combustion engine which has a lot of variables and obviously a bit more difficult to predict the torque delivery. Always the way. The rain picks up just as it's time to swap cars and get out and have fun. So just P for park.
P for park.
And I'll sign you off.
There we go. Yep. Look, I didn't speak.
Beautiful. Nah, much.
You did very well. All right. You hop out. I'm going to send you over to Icky.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care of it.
All right. There you go.
Hello. So down here, just follow the cars. We're going to go rightish. Towards that yellow kangaroo sign.
Which means don't hit the kangaroos. Yeah.
So this is the little 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine.
Okay. Yep.
250 horsepower. And it's the older spec, so it doesn't have the nice screens and everything that the current ones have, and it's still got the dial gear selection.
Oh, okay.
So they're all moving to the more traditional sort of stick gear.
Okay.
But for the sports brake, this is what we've got at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, the ice pace was all right. Bit unnerving to.
It takes a bit of getting used to it.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's not. single pedal driving, you know, like it's just.
Yeah.
I barely touched the brake at all the entire time I was driving. Like,
You have it in high regen.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It does take a bit of getting used to it. It's quite aggressive.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I often found myself, you know, letting off, you know, or putting a bit more on the accelerator just to stop that regen because it was so.
Yeah, it takes it out.
You did get shown that there's a low regen as well.
Yeah.
But we had it in high, so.
And once you're used to it, I mean, personally, I'd leave it in high the whole time because then you're maximising your battery. But what you get used to is not coming off the gas completely.
Yeah.
So you moderate them. If you've driven a forklift before, it's a similar thing. You know, like
we were talking about that actually.
Yeah.
So it is a different style of driving. So just a matter of getting used to it. And the same with each of these cars. They've all got their different idiosyncrasies and navigating around the different screens and engaging gears and things like that. It's just a matter of spending a bit of time in them and getting familiar with the different systems.
Beautiful cars.
Yeah.
Inside and out.
Have you spent time in them before? Or
No.
are you new to them?
Yeah, completely new Jag.
Yeah. Bit of an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yeah. I've got I drive a Corolla and my wife drives a BMW X3, so.
Yeah.
New world.
Yeah. Well, I think the only other time I've been in a Jag was in an old school Sovereign.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not the greatest example of a Jag.
Not really, no.
Since Tata have taken over and re-energized the brand.
Who's it? Sorry,
Tata, it's an Indian company.
Oh right, okay.
So it was owned by Ford for a long time, and they sort of ran it into the ground a bit.
It certainly felt that way. Like there seemed to be a lot of, you know, where they were just selling on the name and not really making a lot of effort to innovate.
There were a lot of crossover parts from the Mondeo and stuff like that. And reliability was an issue, and they just. So then the story is, and this may be hearsay, don't quote me on it, but you know, the Tata Indian family who make trucks, four-wheel drives, all sorts of cars, and I don't know, refrigerators and white goods and all sorts of things. They're into everything.
Yep.
Some members of the family were passionate about Jags, and so they bought Jaguar.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I might just
and they've reinvigorated the brand. They've redesigned them, made them produce great aesthetically pleasing cars, and the engineering is great on them again, and that's why we do all these events, to try and shake off those old tags and raise awareness of what the new products are like.
Yeah. Certainly good to have a lot of time, you know, not just from the track aspect, but you know, taking it around just normal streets.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real experience on the track. Is you're not often going to do that. It's good to see what they can do, for sure.
Of course, yeah.
And the opportunity to drive on a track is cool.
Yeah, I just feel it's very refined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a description. So as we come around here, we're going to turn left at the next set of lights.
Lightning coming down.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a Did they stop your on-track stuff at all, or
No,
just
they
kept running through the
so
heavy
we,
downpour?
Yeah, we co-drove first, just to dry out the track a bit and for the instructors to just see how safe it was, and then
Stay in the left lane, maybe. We've got another turn off fairly shortly. Yeah, right. So the instructor drove and you guys sat.
but then
swapped
they
out.
said, yeah, it'd be safe to just
Sandown
have a
is
putt around,
a treacherous track in the wet. It's,
Yeah. You see
all
the
different-
supercars just lose their when they're going around there.
Yeah, there's so many different surface changes, and there's, you know, you get pooling water in places, and even the main straight is treacherous in the wet.
I can see that,
So you just hit puddles and aquaplane. So normally you don't have to be so cautious as running in a bit in the rain, but Sandown, everyone's always sort of a bit. I wouldn't say overcautious, because I don't think you can be overcautious at that track. We'll go up past these vehicles. We're going to go up to the end of this street, and there's a traffic island where we'll do a U-turn, and then we'll come back behind these trucks here and do a driver change.
Okay, good.
This is the scenic part of the drive.
Business parks and factories.
Yeah. Giving you a real world experience.
Yeah.
A little bit different to your Corolla there, Kev, eh?
Yeah. I have a Corolla, yes.
On gas.
On gas.
Really?
Yeah, would you believe? I do a lot of Ks, so.
Hybrid Corollas aren't a bad thing.
Yeah, Cass has got one of those. What about sales stuff?
Yeah, I gotta say though, like for a hybrid, it's really quite loud.
Anyway, wherever you're comfortable.
Would be nobody around.
I don't think they're too busy today. So,
I mean, it's. Hang on, there we go, auto. Cool. It's got a. What do you call it? A 4. Oh, the one I drove was the 4.7 litre V8.
Yep.
So small block V8, but sounded like a big block V8.
Yep.
And yeah, it can definitely launch the. It can definitely launch the car like it's, you know, a lot lighter car.
Yeah, I've coached a guy in one down at Baskerville, the circuit down in near Hobart, which is a really tight, twisty, undulating track. And you notice the weight of it there in trying to get it to turn, but it would get up and boogie, jeez.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The thing had like bulletproof glass in it and everything.
Yeah.
It was just a beast of a thing.
Yeah, but you know, when you tramp that accelerator, it's like, it's all business.
Yeah. We're going onto the freeway.
Okay.
You can drive this in sport if you like. I've already got it in dynamics. You feel it drop down.
Look out.
Excellent. There we go. Here we go.
You can give it a little bit of a blast down the on-ramp here. So here, that changes the engine and gearbox mapping and holds it in a more optimum rev range for better performance.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Here we go.
So if you like that, this change is related to engine and gearbox, and these drive modes are steering, suspension, and throttle. Very smooth power delivery, isn't it?
Very nice.
Don't crash into the back.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't do.
Bad look.
Bad look for
everyone involved.
Oh, yes, for everybody.
So we'll just sit in this next lane across when it's free. This lane shuts down shortly. Got a couple of Ks up. We exit the freeway.
Gears in this box?
8.
8. Plenty to choose from.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like mine. My missus has got an X3.
Yeah. nice. What are you driving?
SSV Redline. This is a little sedate. Nice though, like it's comfortable to drive. I could, yeah. Like if the wife had this as the daily driver, yeah, I wouldn't be too embarrassed about, you know, taking it out for a spin every now and again. But yeah,
it's built for a purpose.
Yeah. But no, I wouldn't be in a rush to give up my yeah. I love my big block V8.
Yeah. It's hard to beat.
It's really, it really is. It's a very different style of driving to everything else.
Yeah. Did you get to drive one of the 8s on track?
No, I drove the F-Type.
Yep, the 6.
The 6. That was nice, very smooth.
Yeah, and very agile, light.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you could easily tell that the...
We can move across into the left lane now.
Sorry, mate. Big fat heads in the way.
Cut him out, mate.
I've seen you do that move before, eh, mate?
I don't know what you're talking about. Would that be on the go-kart track?
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Did you drive the SVR, the F-Pace?
No, I got a co-drive in it though.
Oh, that's the weapon, isn't it?
Oh, that's very, and it sounds the part too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different sound to the V8 and the F-Pace, F-Type. It's a bit of a deeper rumble.
Yes, yeah, it sounded, of all the cars, it sounded the best.
We can stay on the right here, we'll go right at the bottom of it, yeah.
Yep.
They're not sure what they're doing. Keep going right. That's my pick of the bunch, to be honest.
Yeah.
And value for money, I think it's by far and away the best. You've got the practicalities of an SUV and you've got the best motor in the range.
Yeah, it certainly sounded like it was, you know, all business.
Yep.
There was definitely a hint of, hey, we know what we're doing here.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So we just followed this back to Sandown now.
Yep. Very nice. There is a little something to driving a car. I'm not a massive fan of a car that drives you places.
Yep.
I much prefer to be in control and feel like I'm
a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, which the electric car, no. No, it really felt like I was just along for the drive with the car. Like it was just,
It's so smooth, isn't it? It's almost like being in a little hovercraft or something. You know, you're not really connected to anything.
Yeah, you felt totally disassociated from the drive.
Yeah.
The F-Type on the other side of the coin, that was a weapon.
Yeah. And you sit right in it, and it envelops you, and you.
I mean, I loved the way that it's got that divider there for the cockpit, just saying, you know, like.
Hang on.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay out of my space. I am the driver.
Yeah.
You're the passenger. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You're not important enough. So, but yeah, that was definitely I very much enjoyed that. The F-Type. I've driven driven a Porsche Boxster S, and that was very similar to driving the F-Type, although the F-Type's clearly got the power over it.
Left lane when you want it, mate. Sorry, I missed that last bit there.
Yeah, the the F-Type.
Yep.
It's got it in spades power-wise over the Boxster S, but the Boxster S was a fun drive.
They're a nice car to drive, very neutrally balanced and a nice feel on the road.
Yeah, you felt like you were just ripped to the road the entire time, but you also felt like it was, you knew you were driving, but you also felt like it was wanting to just keep you involved in the drive.
Yep.
The Bentley though, the suspension in that was just, we were driving through Sydney, so the roads are terrible at best, and potholes and everything, and you didn't feel it.
Yeah.
It felt like you had, some guy running out in front of the car to fill the holes before you got there, sort of thing,
Which is a similar feel to driving the XJ.
Yeah.
So you got a big thumping V8, 575 horsepower, but this plush ride, and you're just like...
That was what the Bentley was like, and then you put it into sport mode, and then you hit the accelerator, and the car would just launch.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah.
Ready to launch it. It's slippery there.
A little bit.
Jeez.
No, you had your fun ruined by a Yaris.
With Tasmanian plates. That's the problem. It does have a bit of get up and go though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean about the torque delivery though. Because it was like, yeah, no, I'm taking that away from you now.
Back to base. There's been a lot of rain that's just come down.
Yeah.
That lake has not been that full until just this afternoon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I might turn the Ute's got this anti, or it's like a sport mode, if you will, but it's you turn off the stability control and the traction control.
Yep.
In the back end, and then it dances.
Yeah, it slides around plenty.
Oh yeah.
And have you guys had a go on the smart code?
Kevin has, but I didn't get a chance to go before we had to go for the safety briefing. So we're going.
Still got straight up here to the pit lane. You've still got time to get over there and have a go. May as well.
Yeah, I reckon we should.
It's good fun.
Nice bit of kit, this.
Yeah. Just there shouldn't be anything on track, but it's always worthwhile just making sure nothing pops up
is
here.
flying.
Yeah, and give them right of way. But you're all clear. You can turn right and up behind the blue one there.
Beautiful.
Oh, third lane.
Third lane.
Do that.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, we'll drive you straight up, so you don't have to behind the wide XC, so you don't have to walk in the rain.
Nice. Very considerate of you.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be quite ready for an I-Pace personally, but yeah.
Look out, they're the way of the future.
They are, but...
Hold on to your V8, it'll become a collector's item.
Absolutely.
Just pop in the left lane, just because people are milling around here.
Already missing my Monaro, to be honest.
Very good. Okay, I'll sign you out, Andrew.
Thank you.
1655.
Not a great deal.
No, it's kind of new, actually.
Okay, yep. So the beginnings of it was about 3.5 years ago when we introduced the F-Pace. So the concept that was given, or the brief that was given to our engineering teams, was to lots of people that drive our sports sedans and coupes, you know, what we would term as a driver, we consider ourselves to be a driver, we're going for that sort of vehicle. However, things change in people's life. Someone comes home with a dog or whatever, and all of a sudden a sports sedan or a coupe is no longer order of the day. If you're a driver and all of a sudden you find yourself in some soggy kind of SUV, you may not be a happy bunny.
That's putting it politely.
I'm trying to do my best here, guys. Work with me, work with me. Okay. So, a lot of people thought that and a lot of these things obviously get kind of instigated by the press before they actually really, the motor press, before they actually really get to drive the vehicles. And of course, a lot of people thought that the F-Pace was basically a Land Rover in drag, and it wasn't, okay? It was actually built, its underpinnings are the same as the F-Type and the XE. So you've still got that double wishbone front suspension and all the kind of sexy stuff that we like, torque chassis, and then an SUV body popped on it. However, one of the things that we did, so this is an all-wheel drive, not a four-wheel drive. And how we distinguish between the two brands is, this is, we call it an all-surface vehicle, so grass, gravel, snow and ice. And the Land Rover all-terrain, grass, gravel, snow and ice, but also mud, ruts, rock crawling, heavy towing, and that's how we see that distinction. So Land Rover four-wheel drive, Jaguar SUVs all-wheel drive. However, one of the bits of technology we stole from Land Rover is what we're going to demonstrate now. So this piece of equipment here, we call it Ice Cube. The reason we call it Ice Cube is those two grey sheets on the right hand side there at the rampway are Teflon. And courtesy of early summer weather in Melbourne, they have an additional liquid coating. Okay. So as you can appreciate, there's basically zero traction on that right hand side. Yep. If anybody doesn't believe me, they are quite welcome at this particular moment in time to step out the car and try and walk up it. Please let me know if you're going to do that, because I'll get my phone out and film you.
I'll do it for views.
So, what we have is a program we call safety reasons, but other than that, the car. So you just hear how the car's slowly bringing in those revs. So all this time, like I said, both of my feet are on the floor. Car thinks about it, feels the incline, weighs how much is in the car, and I say all this time my feet are off those pedals. And as we climb to the top there,
you could feel it just a little bit giving when it was trying to pull at first.
Correct.
And then it worked out, hey, hang on a minute, no traction on the right hand side.
Absolutely. So that's the cold keen thing to it. So lots of modern vehicles have traction control. I've just come back from Europe, spent a couple of weeks there, hired some car or other, some sort of Renault, got no idea what it was. But it had traction control. The key thing is how you tune that traction control. That's the difference. And of course Land Rover are a real specialist in that area with their all-terrain vehicles. So exactly that. Traction control is, to a certain degree, a reactive system.
Yep.
But it comes in and it's detected very, very early. We've selected that program so the car's anticipating that we're in a tricky situation. So it's already starting to sensitize traction control for us. And the other thing is, if we were driving this ourselves, we hit this surface, we put the throttle in, we invoke that wheel spin. As soon as we gain traction, because we know it's a super slippery surface and we're climbing at 30 degrees, 80 to 90% of drivers will actually back off the throttle. So we get what I affectionately refer to as kangaroo fueling. You put your foot into the floor, car's traction control reacts, car gains traction, starts to move forward, and you instinctively come off the throttle. And that's what happens. The second part of this, as you can feel now, again, my feet are off the pedals. It's our descent braking. on a loose surface or a low traction surface. The reason we use it, so if you've got an icy road in Threadbow or something in winter, okay, if I put my foot on the foot brake, I'm going to apply brake force to all four rotors at the same time.
Yep.
That's how it works. However, with the descent braking, it's actually operating on all four rotors individually. So in that same situation, the car might start off by applying brake force, you heard it,
Yep.
to the wheels, but if we get any sort of lock-up on one or more wheels, it actually momentarily releases that brake force.
That's cool.
Amazing, yeah.
So it's bouncing, literally. It could be operating 1, 2, 3 or all four rotors at one time to absolutely basically get zero lock-up.
That's impressive.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, too.
Enjoy your afternoon, guys. Good to meet you.
You too.
And have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.